Hey everybody, this is Callie St. Clair, and this is Conversations with Callie. So today, Cailee here and I are having our fifth now conversation. I think it's our fifth
Something
conversation.
like that, yeah.
Who knows? But we just can't get enough because we both love having these conversations with you guys and just really going deep on whatever it is that's on our hearts. So
Mhm.
I'm going to let Cailee introduce herself and kind of what we're going to be talking about here in today's episode.
Yeah, so I'm Cailee. You can find me everywhere at The Ripened Heart. And so I do human design readings. I'm slowly but surely infusing more astrology into it. 2020 has really inspired me to do that because obviously. And I'm also training to be a homeopath. So you'll find me talking a lot about homeopathy because I just find it to be such a great tool for mental and physical health. And so that's kind of what I'm all about. And yeah, today, I just felt really called to show up and just to talk about, like Callie said, what's on our hearts and how to navigate the heavy energy that we're under, because for the remainder of the year, especially leading up to December 21st, which is the Great Conjunction happening in Capricorn in astrological terms, it's a lot. We're closing three major cycles because everything in life happens in cycles, and it's no different with the energy of a country, the energy of our personal lives, the energy of the collective as a whole. And so the reason that why this year has been so tough is a lot of things are being disrupted and coming to an end and being transformed. And I had pulled an animal spirit card, Callie, while we were waiting to jump on here. And if you guys don't know, this is an amazing deck. It's by Kim Kranz. And so I love this. I only have the guidebook here, so I kind of like to do a oracle pull with the book. And I pulled the butterfly, which is exactly what I was saying, all about the difficult but necessary process of transformation. And the advice that the card gave that I want to share with you is it's necessary for that caterpillar to have that cocooning process while it's in that really heavy process of transformation. And so what that can look like for us humans is having a routine that really comforts us and grounds us, and doing that at the same time each and every day, because there's something really stabilizing to the nervous system about having something at a specific time daily that we show up for. So whether that's a 5-minute meditation every morning at 9 a.m. or a walk every day at 4, the important thing is to be consistent and to do it at the same time. And so that is the advice that the card gave for this immense pressure that we're under, because with everything being so unstable and changing, we need something that's the same every day to balance that, if that makes sense. It's like, okay, I know that this time tomorrow I'll be doing this, and I can connect back here to my path, to myself. And if I show up and connect to myself every day, the universe will present me the next step forward that I need to take on my journey to protect myself, to keep myself safe, no matter what happens in the outside world and the collective. And so I thought that was a great card pull for our conversation.
Oh my goodness, that literally it took my breath away because so actually my last conversation that I had was with my friend Stella, and it was about quantum healing hypnosis therapy. And I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but when I got my first QHHT session a year and a half ago, I actually got to talk with my mom, and
Oh,
I felt her presence, and I just felt like the love that she had for me, and the greater purpose behind everything kind of that we went through with her. And the thing that my higher self said was that every time that I see a butterfly, it's her.
are you
And so I can't
serious?
believe that out of all the cards you pulled, it was the butterfly, which I feel
She's
like
here with
is,
us.
oh my goodness, a parallel in so many ways, because you're right. Like this has been a collective, I think, cocooning year where
Yeah,
we're just that
literally
pile of
stay at
mush.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know it's so easy to, I mean, I do it
This
all
is
the
medical
time.
space.
I feel like I am constantly ranting with my girlfriend about like, oh, the lockdowns and they're doing this and the government's doing this today, and I can get really upset and constantly give away my power and give away my energy to external things. And, you know, that card is such a reminder that maybe this is all for a reason, you know, because of the immense shift in consciousness that's coming our way as we shift from Pisces into Aquarius this December. We need that cocooning process. Maybe we all needed to be at home more, because when you're at home and you're not so distracted and out in the world, you can't ignore all the things that need to be shifted. It's a lot harder
Mm-hmm.
to. So I know I've talked to a lot of people this year who realized their job wasn't right for them, that their relationship wasn't right for them because they were forced to spend so much time together. Friendships, you know, they realized they weren't on the same page, they didn't have the same values. And so a lot of what needed to be shed this year as we come out of the cocoon, it's been a great process of awakening for so many people, and maybe it was necessary for us to spend all that time in solitude or with the wrong person, some of us, you know, and to realize, wow, there's so many things that I need to shift, and now that I have the awareness around it, I can start to shift them, even if it's just a little bit at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that I've heard the same thing from many people, that this has really been a year of kind of cutting off any of those relationships or any habits and, patterns or jobs, a lot of things that aren't serving us anymore, because we've had so much time for introspection
Mhm.
and to kind of cut out a lot of those maybe distractions, because of course all of the bars were closed for a while
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they're beginning to close again, and so it's like things that we used to use to kind of distract ourselves, to go see people, to kind of get our minds off of things, is now, oh, okay, I get to see all of the things that are meant to be seen, which is kind of what I've been um, playing out in my mind, is that everything that happens is seeing in 2020 vision, which
yes,
I think
exactly.
is the
I agree
biggest
with you.
parallel for this year,
That's
is that
exactly
everything is clear.
That's exactly it. And, you know, I'll talk a little bit personally. So I, you know, very much came to Portland. I used to live in Chicago and grew up outside of the city. And so I came to Portland 4 years ago because I really wanted to pursue homeopathy, which is what I'm doing now. I got a degree in nutrition while I was here as well. But ever since I got here, there's been an undeniable, very, very heavy energy in Portland that was just so palpable and was really confusing to me because it's so beautiful here. Like, you know, I was just driving today and there was some fog and you can see the mountain and you can see, you know, the amazing leaves, and there's so much beautiful nature to ground and connect to, which balances it out. But in talking to people who live here, it's like all the problems that the city had that were swept under the rug have come up in such a big way that it's like insane, and like nobody can ignore it anymore. And I think that's happening in a lot of places, you know, like I said, in the city that you live in your family, in your personal life, in your relationships, everything that we try to sweep under the rug is coming up in a big way. And only the things that we're ready to face will come up. So it's not like every little thing that could ever come up is coming up. It's not like a Pandora's box, but in some ways it is, because, you know, the universe is like, okay, we want you to use this energy in the best possible way, this transformative energy. So we're going to put you through some painful experiences so that you can reemerge and transform. And it's just so interesting. I've just been reflecting on that a lot, how that transformation process is, you know, reflected in every aspect of our lives. you know, everything that needed to be transformed is so obvious now, and you just it's unignorable, whereas in other years I feel like it was easier to ignore it. Like, you know, in Portland there's a lot of poverty and drug problems, and it's devastating because every time I like drive downtown, there's another business boarded up, there's another homeless tent, there's and it's like devastating. It's I can't even describe it, and it's something that a lot of people wanted, you know, they didn't know what to do about it, so they just like again they pushed it to the side, but it's hitting like a dark night of the soul. That's how I described it to my girlfriend, is like it feels like this city is going through a dark night of the soul, as we as a whole collective, our whole world is going through a dark night of the soul. All of us are, and we're all going through it together. And I think that's what the really beautiful thing is that we're not alone in this. And I know there's so many people who are struggling, who I've talked to with their mental health. And that's like the message I want to say is like, I'm going through it right there with you. I'm sure you're going through it in your own life, Callie. I mean, it's just like we're all going through it. But what I love about astrology is when you look at a chart, you can see that it has an ending point. This is not going to be forever. This is just a cycle that we're going through that will come to an end. And so we can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel as we go into the big energy in December. And, you know, I'm not going to lie, there's still going to be things that we need to work out and to deal with in 2021, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And that's what I want to say, you know, that this is all for a reason, and it's only for our highest good. I truly believe that.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe the same thing, that ultimately all of it is so that we can see things with more clarity and
Yeah.
still move forward as a collective with more awareness, with
Yeah.
more consciousness. And I have definitely been feeling it my own way, hence why I'm bathing myself in adaptive right now.
Oh, amazing. I still haven't gotten that one. And you know what? I totally missed the BOGO yesterday.
Oh, the Northern Escape.
Yes. I'm just gonna buy it anyway, but
So good. So
yeah.
yeah, I had to bathe myself in oils the last just few weeks, few months,
Yeah.
honestly. Been like going through my own I think just like you said, kind of a microcosm of the
Exactly.
macrocosm, like just everybody I think is getting really confronted with fears. Like
Totally.
it's all about, you know, what the collective like fears have been, and you can see almost a manifestation of our fears of like loneliness, and our fears of like this epidemic that we have really of loneliness, especially which has been highlighted more with technology, which we've talked about having, you know, it's good things and its downfalls, but you can just sense that it's really, really heightened this year. And
Yeah.
again, we're seeing it very, very clearly through
Yes.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I've been thinking about you through this time since you are a reflector. We talked a little bit about that off camera, where just like, you know, just like feeling all of it and being able to reflect that back to us. I've just been curious about what your experience has been with the energies, and you know, what oils that you use or tools that you use for anybody else who has a lot of open centers in human design terms, which you can always look up your chart with your birth time on Jovian Archive or myhumandesign.com. There's so many good sites. So any center that's white, you're taking in energy from the collective and from the people around you and from your environment. Remember, every environment has a Schumann resonance and an electromagnetic pulse. So it's not even just the people around you, it's the literal electromagnetic field of everything around you. And then the cosmos, what's happening cosmically, which as we know is just ridiculous right now.
Yes.
So it's all of it, but you're so connected to that. So I'm curious what you've been doing to kind of ground yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I am a big advocate, of course, for starting the day with at least some sort of introspective practice, whether that's taking, you know, like you said, a 5-minute meditation, or, you know, for me, I've been doing activations that my life coach has been sending me, and those have absolutely just completely transformed my life because I feel more trust because I am leading more with my heart than with my head, which we know our heads can overthink a lot of things. And so I think that's one of the strong benefits of a meditation practice, is that you start to tap more into, you know, your inner light and that part of you that knows that we are these infinite beings and that we will always find a way. And
Yeah.
so kind of seeing the greater picture, definitely, rather than, you know, immediately getting entrapped in my phone, which is really easy to do, you know,
Oh my
waking up
God.
first thing and being like, you know, oh, what emails have I missed? What messages have I missed? What news have I missed, especially this year, because it's like, oh my goodness, who knows what I'm going to wake up to tomorrow. And so it's really easy to kind of get sucked into the drama of that. Like, it's almost like watching a show. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see, you know, what happens next. And
Oh my God.
so
No.
I really have to be diligent about making sure that I start with myself rather than that, because then I find myself going down the rabbit hole all day. And we know that it's important to be aware, but when you start to go down the rabbit hole, it's always a spiral one way or the other. So it's important to kind of spiral back up and always remember to come back to the light and always come back to ourselves. And that,
Yeah.
again, we are these infinite beings that are going to be okay in the long run.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I heard an astrologer talk about this the other day, and it resonated so deeply with me. If there's any concepts that I encourage people to learn about this year and going into next year, it's their North Node. Because this astrologer in particular, she said she's read, like, basically studied 500,000 charts in her career, and rounding up to 1 million, like getting close to that. Like, she's a data driven person, so she's always looking at charts. And she said every single time she's come to the conclusion that whatever happens in that person's life, it's pushing them toward their North Node, no matter what. And so I feel like this year has been so full of messages of disempowerment and division. And these are the reasons why you can't succeed in this life. And this is the reason, you know, there's an economic collapse happening, so you're not going to be prosperous. There's a virus that could take you down at any moment. You know, there's so much fear. And really what we're feeling is not only the collective energy of things shifting into a new age, a new era, literally a new consciousness. Some have even said a new dimension. So yeah, things are crumbling away and falling away, but that doesn't mean that the sky is falling. That doesn't mean that the world is ending. And in our personal lives, whatever happens, it's trying to get us toward that North Node. And now most people don't fully embody their North Node until midlife. But still, even if you're younger, it's still pushing you towards that. And so it's so important to know that, to be aware of that, so that you can start to move toward that energy on your own accord. And so the universe doesn't have to do it for you, you know?
So what is okay, so before I get into a couple more of my favorite tools, I'm going to ask you first, what is your North Node? And
Mm, well,
I want to know yours from a personal standpoint.
yeah, so my North Node is in Sagittarius, and it's in 8th house of Scorpio. So basically, it's about speaking truth to the collective in things that are on the darker end, you could say, because Scorpio is all about like the occult. It's about the rabbit hole. It's about bringing those darker subjects in a lighter way, in a way that's going to help humanity. But being able to call a spade and say what's on my mind and speak my truth is like a huge theme. And also not having a lot of attachments. Like, for example, that's totally why I'm going through what I am with Portland, of like, I felt so unstable here, and like, what's going to happen? You know, there's a lot of violence and riots and natural disasters. I had to literally flee from fire this year, like literally just get up and leave and go to Idaho for a week. Like, it's been so like, okay, just, you know, get ready for that Scorpio transformation and that Sagittarius. You know, Sagittarius loves to travel and doesn't have a lot of belongings and attachments. So that's totally what I've been going through this year. And it's just like letting go of control and being able to trust. And yeah, having lived through this year, I'm like, yep, everything is pushing us toward our north node, where our soul wants us to go, the energies that we're supposed to embody.
Now I'm gonna have to research mine.
Oh yeah, I think your north node is in Capricorn, which means south node is in Cancer. So north node in Capricorn is like being your own boss. It's Saturn, discipline. So since you're going through your Saturn return like I am, because we both have Saturn in Aquarius, and if you're around the age of 27 to 30, more than likely your Saturn is also in Aquarius. So it's like you're going through Saturn on Saturn. And it's pushing you to really be that CEO energy of like being in charge. And because Cancer is all about domestic life and the nurturing feminine energy, and Capricorn actually is technically a feminine sign. I think some people think it's masculine, but yeah, because it's ruled by Saturn, which does kind of have a masculinity to it, but it's a little bit mixed. So they say it helps to wear some black or have some black tourmaline, because it's very Saturnian, and having that rigid routine and structure, which is going to look a little bit different for you as a reflector. So that's the nuance there. That's why I think human design still comes in, is like, how do you navigate that as your energy type? Because it's going to look a little bit different, but that's the
Yeah.
vibe you're headed into, Callie.
And that makes total sense, because I've been really focusing on getting back into a routine and having more discipline.
Yeah.
And so that is definitely the energy that I feel like I've been moving towards and have not been embodying. Because again, I'm very a little airy a lot of times. And so I think, yeah, like you said, Capricorn being that like earthy energy,
Yeah.
getting grounded, and
Mountain
even
goats
though,
step by step.
yes.
But I'm curious what your house placement is, because that'll change the vibe of it. Because like, Capricorn in, Scorpio would be a lot different than Capricorn in Capricorn, for example, or something like that. So you'll have to get back to me on the house placement. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I'm curious now too.
Yeah. And Astrology for the Soul is the book that I recommend. Once you know your North Node, you can look it up. So there's going to be a section for the house placement and the sign it's in. You can also Google, but I just really like that book. So thought I'd plug it.
Yeah, I think the more resources for people, the better, especially for those of us who are going to be kind of, for me, I hibernate pretty much every winter. Anyway, I turn into kind of a bear where I just want to sit inside with my hot cacao and just read and dive deep into myself. I kind of feel like it's a strong introspective time as far as winter goes. And so I feel like that is kind of what's coming through for our conversation today, is just as many tools as possible to bring awareness to yourself, bring awareness to kind of the collective, and some tools also to help you navigate the energy. And so, yeah, I will talk about one more of my favorite tools, and then I'm going to ask you a couple of your favorites too.
Yeah, please do.
So the next one that comes up for me is definitely like journaling. I am a huge advocate for putting your thoughts out there, because you think of how much things we repress, how much emotions we are afraid to talk about. And so sometimes I think just putting it on paper is the most freeing, feeling. And something that I always think about when I want to neglect my journaling practice is, I think it was Dr. Joe Dispenza or someone said that we enter the day with over 90% of the thoughts that we had yesterday.
Oh.
So because we are basically a programming, like our minds are programmed. And so when we wake up in the morning, it's whatever we had, from the night before and before is going to kind of come into our consciousness, and that's going to be our reality. And so that's why we continue to, you know, have a lot of the same thoughts day after day after day after day, and the same routines, and kind of staying in the same place that you are generally, unless of course you start to kind of transform that. And so one of my practices for helping to kind of change my thoughts is to journal, because that kind of allows me to release some of the stuff that I've been thinking about and thinking about and thinking about, and allowing for more space to be able to think new thoughts and to be able to kind of get into more of a creative zone. So for me, journaling has been a huge tool, and I love certain oils to help me kind of slow down my breathing, to get into a space where I will allow myself to have these mindful moments to myself. And so one of them is, of course, adaptive. One of my other favorites is copaiba, which is kind of like a CBD oil, but it actually affects the endocannabinoid system in a different way. So it's really, really effective for kind of calming my nervous system, which as a reflector is super sensitive. Yeah. And so I think that's one of definitely my traits as a reflector, because they say, like, if you drink coffee as like having certain open centers, you're going to feel it differently. And so I was thinking about that from a reflector standpoint. I'm like, I have all of them open. So I'm sure that drinking coffee and things that like actually stimulate the nervous system just affects me that much more. And so one of the ways that I like to relax my nervous system when I drink my coffee is by using copaiba and other relaxing nervous system oils like peppermint.
So what is copaiba? I've never heard of that.
Copaiba is a
Yeah.
tree.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like this it's this like gray
I'm
straight
writing it
tree.
down.
Yeah, and one of my favorite tools actually in using doTERRA's oils is that you can look at where every oil is sourced from by going to www.sourcetoyou.com. And so
Oh,
they actually have videos of the growers who are growing the copaiba trees and harvesting them. And so it's really actually neat to kind of learn the history and the origin of these oils and how they got to the bottle.
can you take it internally, or is it something you put
Mm-hmm.
external? Oh, okay. That's
Yep.
awesome.
So this is one that I actually will take a drop sublingually. So under my tongue, I take a drop under my tongue every day.
Mhm.
And so that has been super helpful, that internal usage, but it's also a really nice one to put in the diffuser that's really mild too, that mixes with a lot of things that I feel like helps me kind of calm my mind down to get into that restful state before I go to bed too.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that. I know I always bring it back to astrology. It's just how I think, but I'm a Pisces, and so I've always been sensitive to cannabis, and even
Mm,
like CBD. Like I don't really gravitate toward it. I think just because like it's not great for Pisces in general. And so I'm really curious about that, because since it affects the endocannabinoid system as well, that seems like something really amazing. And just anybody, I mean, no matter who you are, you know, everybody I think needs certain tools like that at this time. That what I like about oils is that they bypass our analytical minds and go straight to our senses. So it's like I feel like sometimes I fall into this trap too, where I'm using a tool, but it ends up just being like a mental exercise,
mm.
and I'm trying to think my way out of something, of discomfort, of a feeling. Why do I feel this way? And so it's like with oils, you can totally bypass the monkey mind and just go straight to your senses and to your nervous system, and you don't have to think about it.
That's so true. And you can see that with, you know, when you use essential oils on kids, because they naturally gravitate towards them, and
That's
they
so
don't have any kind of like bias towards whether or not, you know, this one is better for you or this one, you know, is the one that you should be liking. Kids just know. So when you use, you know, say something Western medicine, or you use essential oils on them, a lot of times you'll find that they start asking for essential oils because it feels good to them.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of a cool like way to know too that they really do work, because they're not kids aren't biased one way or the other. And so I love watching, you know, my nephew just, you know, always ask for his vitamins and reaching for the oils because they just feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And they just go straight to that emotional center. I
Yeah.
love that about them.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know we were talking about the kids roller blends, and I was telling my partner about that. I'm like, we gotta get the kids roller blends.
Yes.
I literally have started like taking them because my homeopathy class is like 2 hours long. And so I just started like bringing oils and just going like in the middle of class to focus for that
That's
extended
awesome.
period of time. And I'm just like, it works, so why not, you know?
I love it. And yeah, that would, by the way, that was not a plug to say that you shouldn't take Western medicine. This was just saying that there are other alternatives to also get you out of that like state of stress. So I just wanted to put that little disclaimer in there.
Yeah.
But the next kind of thing that came up for me as we were talking about what oils to use just for our energy types in general is as a reflector, one of the biggest things, I mean, I think anybody can feel at this point is just the negativity.
Yeah.
It's like the negativity is being so highlighted and brought to the surface right now because it's like everybody has something negative to say about something.
Yeah.
And
You're so right.
so negativity has been a huge thing that has come up for me. And one of the oils that I love to use is actually doTERRA's bug repellent blend, which is
Oh.
called Terra Shield.
Oh.
Yep. So it's called Terra Shield, and you can get it in a spray bottle or in like a 15 milliliter bottle, just like this.
Hmm.
And I actually keep a spray bottle in my car. And one of the things that, as a reflector, is that I'm sensitive to the environment and especially to large crowds because it's so much energy,
Hmm.
which of course we don't have to worry about so much right now, but you can still feel that energy even just on a collective level. And so every day I will take a spritz bottle and spray my energy field, spray kind of my chest area. And a lot of times I'll even say a mantra saying like, I only attract people who have my highest intention in mind, you know. So I will say a little mantra to myself and kind of use it as a protective shield also for my energy, not just for repelling bugs but also for repelling those negative
Yeah.
energies and people that are either codependent or don't have necessarily your highest intentions.
I love that. I think literally everybody can benefit from that. I have like a little spray bottle of it's like a sage Palo Santo type
Mm.
deal. I think I found it at Natural Grocers or something. It's a local line, and I literally am obsessed with that. Like that's like one of my favorite smells on earth is Palo Santo, like by far. But then I found this vetiver, which I'm curious if doTERRA has a vetiver, anything with
Yes.
vetiver, because holy crap, it smells so good. So it's like dried vetiver. So you light it like you would Palo Santo, and it's like my new
Mm.
favorite thing on earth. Like it smells so good. And it
uh,
always like I'll just do it, like around the house and just like even if I don't want to light it, it still smells good even if you don't light it. So I've been like obsessed with that.
Yum. Vetiver is one of my favorite essential oils because it is just so grounding.
Yeah.
That's one of the oils that I use a lot of times on my big toe before I go to bed at night
Oh,
because
cool.
the big toe is the brain and reflexology. So that's the area that you want to focus on if you're wanting to, you know, slow the mind down or
Mhm.
anything connected to the brain.
Mhm.
So I'll put a drop of vetiver because it's like super thick and sappy since it comes from the root of the plant.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think of kind of essential oils as being really cool as a parallel to the actual plant itself.
Hmm.
So the more it comes from the areas that are below the earth, the more grounding it's going to be versus when they're the, you know, the wild orange or the blossom, it's going to be a little bit more uplifting because it's closer to the sun. And so you can think of that as kind of the parallel as you move up the plant. And so vetiver is one of those that's the most grounding. Like I
Yeah.
love it for getting out of my head.
You know what I just thought of, Callie? I can't believe I haven't told you this, but I haven't even thought of it myself until now. Is because I know that we've talked about before that Essential Oils for Emotions book, where you can kind of
Mm,
flip to, what is vetiver good for? Well, I was just thinking about the fact that in homeopathy, every plant, basically anything that you would have in doTERRA, there's a homeopathic remedy. And I'm not even saying to take it homeopathically, but it'll give you a shitload of information about like how it affects mental, how it affects physical, how it affects emotional. Like it'll give you like really good information on all of those. So now I'm curious to look it up, like to look up what I'm drawn toward and not even take it as homeopathic, but it's just because homeopathy will study like every possible use of that substance so that we know what it's good for. And so now I'm really curious because I think you'd find that interesting.
I would absolutely love that. That's
Yeah,
what's so cool about when you start the healing journey. It's like everything's so interconnected. And
it's so
yeah,
it.
that's like you get to go so deep into, that just with connecting plants in different ways and in different, ways of looking at them.
Well, what I've learned from homeopathy is everything has a consciousness, which is so trippy to think about. And like some people are like, what are you talking about? Like literally everything. Okay. So I showed you this pyramid. So I have this like crystal pyramid, which I keep by me. This has a consciousness, believe it or not. And all that means, it's not like it's thinking thoughts. All that it means is it has an energy that it's radiating into the environment, just like we have when we talked about human design last time, where the defined centers we have radiate out energy. It's like that's why things like crystals work, is because everything has a field that it's radiating outward. And so
Mm,
we all have energy that we are more attracted to because that's what we need in that moment. So, there's probably something about this that I'm gravitating toward that resonates somewhere that I need. And so that's why I picked this one today, or like whatever oil that you pick that day, or whatever color that you choose to wear. Every color has a frequency. Every plant, like the plants in my office, have a frequency. It's like what we're attracted toward, it's for a reason, and it's because it helps us. It's like everything in your life can be a remedy. If everything out there is trying to help you to become your best self and to navigate whatever you're trying to navigate and that you need help with. So I just like, ever since I learned about that, like the energy fields of things and homeopathy and human design, all of it, I mean, all the amazing tools out there, I've just found a lot of solace in that like, it's like I can study what the energy of a sycamore tree is and like how it can help somebody clinically. It's just like, what? It's like literally everything on this earth is here to help us. And I just find that so comforting.
absolutely. And as you were talking about that with everything being energy, yeah, I just think it's so important that we surround ourselves, especially as we are going to be in our spaces. We have to surround ourselves with the things that I think bring us joy, things
Yeah,
that feel good to us. And so actually over the last couple of weeks, I felt this like strong urge to purge all of the things in my space that are just taking up energy. Like if you just think about even every physical thing having energy from that standpoint, like how good it feels to clean out your closet and get rid of things that you haven't worn in years,
totally.
or organizing a space. And for me, I like finally went through and have organized all of my oils back into color order so it looks like the chakras again. And so it makes my Virgo heart happy, and it brings me joy to have like the energy where it feels good to me. That's why, I mean, there's feng shui and there's
Yeah,
a lot to be said about the energy of things.
that's so true. That's another way of looking at it. And that's really funny because I literally rearranged my entire office this week. Like I had a rug that no matter what I did, it always like crumpled up because it was on carpet. So you like trip over it. And I'm just like, you know what? It was like 4 months that I've had this rug. And I'm like, you know what? We're rolling it up and selling it. We're getting rid of it. And ever since I did that, I'm like, it opened up the entire space. I got like a little table on Facebook Marketplace for the corner. And like, I just made it feel really good. I dusted everything and just like, it's just like something as simple as cleaning shifts the energy, because a lot of times you can tell how you're feeling internally by how your external space looks. So I know that personally, when I'm not feeling my best or when my mind is scattered, my environment will feel the same way. You know, maybe I didn't do the dishes, or you know what I mean? I didn't vacuum or pick up after myself. And I can tell what state of mind I'm in by how my environment looks. So I always see it as a really good sign that I'm like coming more into balance if I feel that urge to like rearrange the space and make it good. Like that's always a good thing. Like in homeopathy, we always look for signs that a remedy is working. And so one of the signs is like picking up things that you used to do as a kid. So like a friend of mine who sees my homeopath, she had it drawn for 10 years. And she started taking her remedy, and she's drawing for the first time in 10 years, every single night for the last 2 months.
Wow.
It's like those little signs of healing that we take for granted. And I'm not just saying homeopathy does this, anything that, you know, raises our vitality and lifts our vibration and our energy field, it reflects in our actions. And it's not a judgment, because we're all going to go into those times where that's more dormant and we're more scattered and we're more, you know, whatever. That's a cycle too. But I've really come to appreciate those little tiny signs that you're more in alignment and that you're healing and that you're on the right path. You know, synchronicities and numbers like we talk about constantly, Callie. It's like there's these little messengers that you're on the right path. Like the other thing that was weird when I was taking homeopathics myself and on my healing journey is, it's funny because we talked about black as Capricorn. So not saying black is a bad color, but I started wearing way more colors. Like my wardrobe shifted from like drab neutrals, which I know I'm not a good example today, but I have this, you know. So, but no, my wardrobe, I literally have like every color now, where that wasn't the case before. And it's like because my vibration is literally different than it used to be. And so it's all these little external things. And I don't know, I've just been thinking about that a lot recently.
Yeah, no, I resonate with that so much too. Like I can tell a difference based off of what even on the dreary days, I tend to reach for more like gray or black.
Totally.
And so just, yeah, the colors that we surround ourselves with, they've done studies on that, like painting classrooms and stuff in different colors, having different effects on us, especially like in marketing. They've proven different colors have different effects on people and make people want to buy more. And so yeah, there's just so much to be said for what we surround ourselves with in general.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good argument for people who are skeptical about energetics and like the language of energy, for lack of a better term. First of all, you can measure it, so it's a thing, but it's like there's no questioning it. You know, like you said, like restaurants use the color red because it makes you hungry. You know, so it's just like it's a thing. It's a thing, and as soon as I, was able to, I don't know, shift my awareness that everything is for our highest good and trying to help us, even like what we're drawn toward that day, and everything that surrounds us is a potential healer, a potential remedy. It gave me a lot of solace in these times that we're going through, because it's humans have gone through this before.
Yeah.
And we'll go through it again, and you will come out the other side so much better than we were.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. And there was something that I was thinking about.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, we were talking a little bit off air about dreams too, and how, there's certain energies that come to us in dreams as messages. And that's another thing that I've noticed taking homeopathics is I've had the craziest dreams this year, which I know I've told you about. and it's like they've all been intense messengers, and it's just like I literally feel myself processing all of my past stuff, like people from the past in my dreams, um, all these past situations coming up to be processed and healed. And then I'll journal about it in the morning and I'm like, holy shit, like what's going on? You just like, when you feel a certain way, like if you feel anxious or depressed, and sometimes you don't know why, it's like you don't understand what's being processed outside of our conscious awareness at all times, because our unconscious is most of who we are. So
Yeah,
we get a glimpse into that in our dream life.
exactly. I feel like everything in our dreams is a message from our higher self, from like almost like it's like our right brain and our entire being is kind of off somewhere else into in a different consciousness, in a different dimension, and all of it still is meant to be used as something for this lifetime. So I
Yeah.
think all of it is in divine timing, just like, everything that comes up on your social media, a lot of times you'll notice is in divine timing. You find different podcasts and maybe you don't resonate with something at one time, and then you listen to it 2 years later and you do resonate with it, and it just shows how much like your energy in that can shift.
Totally.
And so one of the things, I just remembered what it was that I was
Oh,
thinking
perfect.
about. So I started thinking about my last conversation with Stella about QHHT,
Mhm.
and what the reason why I got there was because I was thinking about the book that I've talked about in a couple of different podcast episodes called Soul Speak,
Oh yeah.
that really talks about the connection with the emotional, spiritual meanings behind the things that come along in like our physical body and our physical realm.
Mhm.
And so that's one of the biggest, I think, tools for me throughout, everything that we experience, throughout everything that happens in my personal life, is that I look up a lot of times using my tools, either the Essential Emotions app or the Healing Feelings app, or the Soul Speak book. A lot of times I will look up, what the emotional and spiritual meaning are, because I know that, all of it is happening for a reason. All of it is meant to give me guidance on something that I need to change in my life. And
Mhm.
so for me, instead of seeing it as like a why me, feeling victim mentality, which I think in general we have just very,
Oh
very prevalent. I mean, I'm a sucker for it too. Like when, as soon as I used to get sick, it would be like, why me? What did I do to even from a spiritual perspective, I would say, what did I do to manifest this?
totally.
And
Same thing.
things like that. And so this last time when I got sick was really after, I don't get sick very often, but kind of after a couple of days where I was just not feeling my best, I started to realize, that it is my choice on how I respond to this.
Mhm.
I didn't really go into the victim mentality like I used to, so I think like this year has also been really, growing for me in that way. But that's just kind of the thought pattern that I went down as you were talking about, that is just using everything as a way to look at what your body is trying to tell you. So I looked up, what sinus problems were, and looked
Mhm.
up, what was happening, and I actually saw from an energetic level the pressure that I was putting on myself, which is in the sinuses, sinus
Yeah.
pressure. And
Yep.
so I was like, wow, that resonates really heavy with me. And so I got to see it more from that bird's eye view, rather than again getting sucked into it and getting into that victim mentality.
That's so true. Yeah, anything that can help us to zoom out and see the bigger picture is going to be so helpful. And it's interesting though, because, like, oftentimes what I'll do to understand how I'm feeling is I'll pull a tarot card. And so people use tarot cards for different things. I've heard it often called like your pocket psychologist, because these symbols, our first language as humans were symbols before we learned how to write letters and things like that. And so these symbols speak to our subconscious, and essentially whatever we project onto that card is how we're feeling. And so it can help us know how to move forward when we look up the meaning of the card. And it's not necessarily something that can fortune tell or predict the future, but it just tells you what kind of energy you're navigating toward. So again, it helps you to zoom out and get clarity. And like you said, get out of the victim mindset. Because yeah, it's so easy to go there right now. It really is. And you know, it's like, it's okay to go there for a little bit, as long as you don't stay there. Because you know, there's been days where I've just had to cry and I've been really frustrated and I need to rant and I need to be angry and frustrated. And that's totally fair too, because no matter what tools we have, we're all going to have bad days. There's just no avoiding it. And I used to beat myself up about that, like, oh, I should know better, I should know how to navigate out of this by now. And it's like, nope, I'm having a bad day. Hopefully it's only a bad hour, not an entire day. You know, maybe I can shift out of it later, but it is what it is. This is the human experience. It just is. And so there's only, you know, you can't totally avoid that. But certainly, I mean, so just give yourself grace and patience during this time. And know that we will be on the other side eventually, and that, you know, there's a lot of magic and a lot of amazing energy to be had here too. It's not all doom and gloom like it appears.
Definitely.
Well, I actually have to run. I have to run. I so enjoyed this, Callie. Thank you for having me on again.
Yeah, of course. Thank you all for tuning in, and I look forward to our next conversation. I am sure that the next one is going to be a little deeper dive into human design.
Yeah,
We talk a little bit about it today, but stay tuned for more conversations with Cailee and I.
bye guys. Thank you.
Bye, Cailee. Thanks, everyone.